Hello, podcast listeners. We know podcasts are a great way to catch up on a program that you may have missed on KSJE, and it's provided as a free service of this radio station. But you know, KSJE is now listener supported, and so while you enjoy this podcast, we hope that you'll also take some time to join KSJE. Become a member today. It's quite easy to do. Just go to our website at ksje.com/support and pick the level of support that best matches your budget. Thanks again for listening. Here's your podcast.
Welcome back to Right on Four Corners. I'm your host, DelSheree Gladden, and I'm an author of over 30 published novels and a ninth grade English teacher. And on this week's episode, I have Art Goodtimes, and he's going to be talking about a variety of things, so I'll let him just jump in with an introduction, and then we will dive into it. So Art, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thanks so much. It's nice to be on board here. Art Goodtimes. Yeah, I've been in Colorado for 40-some years now. I came from California originally and was associated with the Cloud House Poetry Center in San Francisco. And when I came out to Colorado, we started doing poetry events in Telluride, where I was living, and we've continued now. We associated with the Telluride Institute, and they've taken over as our nonprofit. And the Talking Gourds poetry program is part of their offerings in the community. So we do readings online through the library in Telluride once a month. We call that Bardic Trails. And we have a stories and poem series, live series at the library in Norwood, as well as a national poetry contest and a couple of other programs. So we're doing a lot for poetry in Colorado.
Aside from the fact that I've been to several events that you've spoken at, and I just always enjoy your, I guess you can kind of say performances, because your work is very performative when you're sharing that live.
Right.
But a little bit more about the Talking Gourds, like it's a really neat program, and I wanted to hear a little bit more about that and where it came from, because I think it has an interesting starting point, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Oh, you bet. So, yeah, I'm a performance poet. The West Coast people, we did a lot of performances on the street when I was out there with the Cloud House poets. And I do also perform, in venues as well. But I love performance, and I like poetry as storytelling that communicates to people, and you try to make it come alive with the performance. So that carried over to when I met Dolores LaChapelle, who was an author, a writer, skier, and a mountain climber in Silverton. I met her and I read her book, Sacred Land, Sacred Sex, Rapture of the Deep. And it talks about Bardic poetry as one of the pathways to get us back in touch with the natural world. So poetry that speaks about the place and poetry that is shared with people in performance. So Dolores and I and a few other people put together a Talking Gourds gathering up in the mountains at various places on the Uncompahgre Plateau and up near Telluride on one of the mesas. And we pass a gourd around. A gourd is a very powerful object. I'm part of the Rainbow family, and we go to Rainbow family gatherings. And when we have conversations in circles, we pass a stick around, a talking stick. And that's an old tradition among many, many indigenous peoples of counseling, using an opportunity for people to speak and passing an object around that when the person has that object, they have the floor. And so everyone else needs to listen and doesn't interrupt. So kind of an interesting, different kind of way of sharing poetry than an open mic and where people are talking and there's a microphone. And this is more intimate and a little bit easier for people to open up and tell a story or sing a song or whatever. So we have gourd circles that are our way of sharing poetry, as well as we have performances and we have gatherings and other events. But we just had a poetry festival in Crestone, another one in Trinidad, and Talking Gourds was there at both of them. And I've just done a couple of Talking Gourds events, part of the Colorado Mesa University up in Grand Junction and over in Western Colorado University in Gunnison. We had a Headwaters conference and we do a Talking Gourds circle there afterwards. So Talking Gourds is kind of the gourd speaks. It's sort of like you get to speak when you hold the gourd. It's like the gourd is talking. And the symbol of the gourd is so powerful. This talking stick is a very phallic energy, whereas the gourd is both phallic energy and also the cupped energy of the feminine. So a lot of us look at it as the partnership culture kind of object. So passing that around really honors both the feminine and the masculine energies that we all share.
I love that imagery and the idea of everybody having that opportunity to share in a focused, respectful way. I think that's a difficult thing to come across in today's society in many venues. And it, I think that that's a great practice to have. I'd love to see it more with our younger students as well. That's behavior issues have been a big problem this year with managing classrooms.
Sure.
And I think that that's just a wonderful approach to being able to share in a way that people know it's going to be a safe space. Because I think those safe spaces are harder and harder to find a lot of the times.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of why we do this. I mean, when I'm with my friends who I've known for years, we just share poems. You don't need a gourd. But when you're with people you don't know and it's a new situation, we like to provide a safe and nurturing environment that's really an exercise in listening. A lot of, when you see an open mic, a lot of times people aren't paying that much attention. They're practicing themselves or they leave early, whatever. But when you're in a gourd circle, you're actually listening to and everybody has something to say. Some people, like I say, are great poets, and some people are just telling their heart song, and that's beautiful too. So when you hear people talking and you're listening to them and you're not interrupting them and you're really paying attention, it really is a powerful energy. And I know when I was up at Western recently with a bunch of students, it was really powerful to hear each of the students, and they were very respectful. They listened until each person was done, and I think passing the gourd helps make that happen.
It's funny because my students, just before we left for Thanksgiving break, had to give a presentation on the book we read. And it was interesting to see how many of them were just terrified by that idea or were willing to take a poor grade on it if they didn't have to get up in front of other people. And, these are kids, I teach freshmen, and they're kind of coming out of those years of COVID, and like it really shows that they missed those years of learning how to socialize and how to express themselves in public. And it's a hard lesson for them to learn coming back into it. And it was almost kind of shocking. Me growing up, I did not speak in public. I was a very shy kid that would just about give me a heart attack. And somehow now, it doesn't bother me at all. But seeing some of them, I had one poor girl just stand up and just burst into tears. And I felt so bad for her. Let her end up doing it in the hall later because she was just too upset to gather herself and to be in front of people. But I think that really is a valuable thing just in general, but especially thinking in the realm of sharing something creative. It's so personal. It makes it even scarier to have to put that out in front of people, especially people you don't know. And I really love this idea of setting up for success for people who are participating, to say, people are going to listen, they're going to be respectful, they're going to hear what you're saying and take it in. And like, it doesn't have to be this really scary, intimidating thing.
Well, it's scary and intimidating to stand in front of a group of people, get up to the front of the class or the front of the auditorium or hall. And so for those of us who've been doing it a long time, you get used to it, and you may still be nervous, but sometimes you're not. Sometimes it's actually easier, I feel, to talk to 500 people than to 5 because you're really in touch with everybody's energy too close almost, so that it's a little daunting. But I think to begin, I really like the gourd circle and passing the gourd as a way to initiate. So for people that, young people particularly, we had a gourd circle just the other night here in Norwood with our Stories and Poems series. We do a featured reading. We had a cowboy poet, and then we passed the gourd around, and there was a 8-year-old girl did a wonderful little poem of hers. Again, I think you don't have to walk up to a stage. If there's not a microphone in your face, it makes it a little bit more comfortable. You're sitting in a seat, you're surrounded by people, you're listening, and then it's your turn, and so you don't have quite the difficulty in kind of speaking out, at least to the people there in the circle.
That's a really great point. I like that. If someone was wanting to get started with something like this in their own community, what would you recommend to them on how to approach that? I would really love to see this in more places. I think it's a really great space and program for people.
Yeah, I was sick there for a couple of years, and I'm much better now. So I'm trying to go out and show people, demonstrate this practice, and it's a very simple one. It's very powerful. I've been really pleased with it. And so people talk about workshops. If you're a poet, that's what you usually do. You end up doing workshops. But I like to say I only work in the service of play, and I only shop when I'm depressed. So I call them playgrounds. And we have a lot of fun when we have a playground and we pass the gourd around, get to hear everybody. Sometimes we go around once and hear something. And oftentimes I tell people, bring something you like. Don't bring your own piece to start with. Bring something you like. The first round will read something of somebody else's. So you have a little distance, but you also get comfortable reading in that circle. And then the second time we go around, if you have something of your own, great, or just want to share something from another person again, that's great too. Because I think you need to build up a confidence if you want to be able to share in public and feel comfortable.
Definitely. It's a skill that has to be developed. I think for most of us, some people are just naturally great in front of a crowd and that doesn't bother them at all. But I think for most people that probably is intimidating and you have to work your way up to being in front of people, and especially when it comes to sharing your own creative works. I think that's very true.
Mm-hmm. To have a facilitator, so someone who actually has done this before, because there's all kinds of situations, all kinds of things happen, and you want someone who's experienced in kind of leading a group and knowing when to ask people not to speak, or trying to figure out ways to. We also don't clap or snap our fingers. We do twinkling or jazz hands, where we put our hands up and just shake our hand, and that lets people know that we're enjoying and listening without actually interrupting the space with noise.
I like that. Yeah, I think that can be not really disruptive, but I think that can change the flow when there is that noise that breaks into something like spoken word,
especially
poetry or
if
stories.
Someone's really good and they get a lot of applause, and somebody is not that strong and they don't get much applause. It kind of makes people feel badly. So again, we're trying to make it so that people are not intimidated by what's happening.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about, I noticed that Rosemary Watola-Traumer was working with you on this project, and she is just fabulous. I had the opportunity to interview her probably a couple of months ago, and with her new poetry book, which just made me bawl through the whole interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get involved with her, and are you still working together on it, or was that for a little while? Where are you at with that?
Rosemary and I have been friends for 20 years now, and when she came to Telluride, I was doing poetry, and she had studied linguistics, and so she started coming, and we had a lot of discussions. She worked as a co-director of the Talking Gourds program for a number of years, and so we've done a lot together. Right now, her career is really taking off. All the Honey is an incredible book, and she's an incredible performer, and we're dear friends, but she's so busy on her own stuff. We aren't really doing too many things together, a few, but mostly she's on her own trajectory right now, and she's doing wonderful things. We have a number of wonderful poets actually in our community here. Siva Chisonis, Joanna Yander, Ellie Metric. We have a bunch, and we actually just started a little Norwood. We call it the Wrights Mesa Gang poetry group, performance group, Diva and Ellie and I. And so in the past, Ellie and Rosemary and I did a performance group called Ear, and we did that for a number of years. So we worked together a lot, and we're still dear friends. In fact, I'm heading over there for dinner here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I highly encourage people to check out her work as well. Like I said, I loved All the Honey. I keep it close by. I think I'm going to use it with my students this year when we start doing poetry.
Sure.
It's current and really touches on a lot of things that I think a lot of my students can relate to. I'm glad you guys were able to work together for a while there, and I think it's wonderful that she's finding so much success right now.
It is.
Hopefully keep connecting and bringing more people in, because this is a really neat thing to be a part of.
She has her Merging Form podcast with Christine Ash London, and she does a poem a day practice that people can sign up for, and she does a lot of workshops and stuff herself. So if you go to her website, Word Woman, you can find a lot about what Rosemary's up to.
And tell us a little bit more about some of what you do outside of the Talking Gourds program. Going through your bio, you've done, it seems like a little bit of everything from politics to newspaper to poetry editor. Tell us kind of where you're at and what you're working on and just what that looks like for you right now.
Well, I'm retired, so I get to take it a little bit easier, although I'm still pretty busy. I was a county commissioner for 20 years up here in San Miguel County. So I got pretty heavily involved in politics, and I was a Green Party member. I wasn't a Democrat or a Republican, so I got to work with both sides and not be beholden to either one, which was really wonderful. I worked in the county, of course, but then I also was on state committees and actually got on the National Association of Counties. I was in leadership there for public lands, which was a specialty I took. I was really interested in. These days, I left that in 2016. Like I said, I spent a lot of time with the Institute doing this poetry program. And then we also have a mushroom festival. And I've been the poet in residence at the Mushroom Festival for 43 years now. So I helped start it in Telluride, and I've been associated with it ever since. And I really love it because, as my teacher, Dolores LaChapelle, talked about, it's like a hunter-gatherer activity. Hunting for mushrooms is, as hunter-gatherers, goes back in our history as human beings back 200,000 years. So we've been hunting animals and gathering mushrooms for thousands and thousands of years. So it's really fun to be doing this old practice and making it come alive in our own culture right now. I'm involved with the Mushroom Fest a lot, and I'm also performing a lot. Right now, I'm setting up performances and workshops or playgrounds all around the state and down into New Mexico.
Wonderful. How would someone get in contact with you if they wanted to set up a playground and have you come and teach this method?
I'm on Facebook, so that's a real easy way. I don't think there's another Art Goodtimes in the country that I know of. So my name in Italian is Bontempi, but for various reasons, I changed it to the English, which is a translation of Bontempi. It means good time. So I use the English translation of my name. And you can find me on Facebook. If people are interested, you can message me there, and then we can get in touch.
Wonderful. Yeah, you come up really easily, and as someone else with an unusual name, it's really helpful.
You know that, right?
Easy to get located. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I have a blog spot too. It's goodtimespoet.blogspot.com, and so I post the work there, and I write for the Four Corners Free Press down in Cortez. I have a monthly column, and I've been a newspaper editor and journalist for like another 40 years. I've been doing that since I moved to Colorado. I'm also there's an online Denver newspaper called the Colorado Times Recorder, and I publish poems there as well on pretty much every month. I'm still active in the journalism world as well as the poetry world and as well as the mushroom world.
You do stay very busy, which is wonderful.
Yep.
And I was looking at, you have several books of poetry. Your most recent one, Dancing on Edge, the McRed-Eye poems. Tell us a little bit about that. It's intriguing, and it seems like a lot of interesting topics. I'll have you explain it first, then we'll talk about it.
Well, so like I say, I grew up in California. I was born in San Francisco. My father was an immigrant family, the Bontempi family, but my mother had roots that went back to the Californios in the 1770s who came to California in the early time. So I have a lot of roots in California, and I was really interested. The indigenous people of California, of San Francisco, had a song. One of the songs that's come down to us is Dancing on the Brink of the World. And so I was always touched by that because San Francisco is that. It's dancing on the brink of the world, on the edge of the continent. And when I came to Colorado, I was thinking, oh boy, I'm going into the middle of the country. I'm going to be far away from the ocean. But when I started to read the geology and realized that, oh no, actually where I'm living was the coast of a great inland sea thousands of millions of years ago. So I'm actually on a seafront again here in Colorado. So I call it dancing on edge because it's kind of a tricky times right now. We're dancing on the edge of a lot of things, climate change, political upheavals, wars in Gaza and Ukraine, Sudan, a lot of terrible and wonderful things going on simultaneously, as there always is. So I call it dancing on edge. And I use a character, McRed-Eye. It's actually a shortened form of a long anti-nuclear rant I did called Mushroom Cloud Red-Eye years and years ago. And McRed-Eye is a character, sort of an alter ego that a lot of poets have people they talk about that are not them, but they relate to them, and they're allowed to say things that maybe as a speaker you're not necessarily in consort with. So McRed-Eye says a lot of things that are pretty strong, and some of them I agree with, some I don't. But it's a character that I'm able to play with. I have a couple of them, and McRed-Eye poems are the latest book that I did, although we just finished an anthology. I collaborated with a fine poet up in Grand Junction, Wendy Vitalock, and we did a Medicine for the Minds and Hearts, which is an anthology of mushroom poems that just got published this year. So been active, and I'm looking forward to doing more. But yeah, Dancing on Edge was the thing that Lithic Press, the bookstore and press up in Fruta near Grand Junction, put out a few years ago.
I was going through and looking at some of the poems in it and just some of the themes that you covered. And it's really intriguing because, like you said, you have this alter ego character who's speaking through it and interacting. And I like that approach because you're able to bring up a lot of things, like you said, some of which you agree with, maybe some of which you don't, but bringing in these topics and starting these conversations in a way that's a little bit playful. It's not, really in your face off the bat, but they are very thought-provoking and really get people to start thinking about some of these ideas and topics that maybe are kind of swimming around in our heads, especially lately, like you said, with everything going on. But it's often hard to have those conversations with people in a real way that doesn't just provoke each other.
Right. Yeah. Again, poetry is a great way to help people understand different ideas and bring ideas to the fore. But like you say, without trying to necessarily make people angry and upset, you sort of want to lead them into understanding things.
Absolutely. And I love that that's such an interesting thing about poetry is that it's very few words, but it accomplishes a lot in just a very short amount of space.
Right. And I'm a big fan of the Chinese hermit poets and a lot of the tight energy that, there's a couple different strands in American poetry, particularly there's the Walt Whitman expansive, long lines. There's also the precision of Emily Dickinson, which is very tight, very sharp, very pointed and short. And so there are these really two different kinds of modalities that are very common with it. And, it's sort of, we go back and forth doing both of them, I think.
I like that, what you said, going back and forth, like the different modalities of sharing those thoughts and those feelings. And it's interesting. I interviewed someone recently who did a lot of haiku, which I have no experience with really outside of, I think, maybe 6th grade doing that in a poetry unit.
Right.
But it's so interesting to see how people can share what's in their heads, what's in their hearts in such a wide variety of ways, not only in the written word, just art in general. But that's been such a fun aspect of doing this show and getting to meet more types of writers. And it's really, I kind of have my style, my things that I like to write about, but seeing really how expansive it is to be able to express yourself and start conversations of whatever it is that you're trying to communicate with other people in so many different ways. And even among poets who I've been able to interview who maybe have a similar format or similar topics, it's so different talking to each one of them and hearing their process and their thoughts and what they want to say to other people and how they say it. That's really been a neat experience for me. And I wanted to see kind of what your thoughts were on that, having worked with a lot of people who are involved in poetry or who want to get involved and maybe are just taking those first steps, how you bring those people together and then encourage that difference.
Well, exactly. I mean, poetry is a wonderful medium for expressing yourself. There are so many kinds of poetry. There can be formal and very strict form. You can have free, open kind of speaking. You can do short. You can do long. You can have lists. You can have concrete poetry that you just look at. There's all different ways of doing it. I got to study Latin and Greek when I was young, and so poem in the Greek means to make. So what we're talking about poetry is just a making, and whether it's a poem or a cake or a painting, just a dance, they're all making. So for me, poetry is very expansive and broad, and really, it's I think what makes us most human. I like to say, I think we misnamed our species. I think it's more humus ludens. I think we're the dirt that dances. We're the dirt that tells stories. It's the arts that make us most human. And so I'm a big fan of putting the A back in STEM and making it STEAM, because the arts really humanize us and open us to all different kinds of voices and all different kinds of experience. So, yeah, I love going to hear. And again, we talk about open mics, which is the way that people traditionally in our culture have been sharing poetry, which is fun. It's fun. It's great. But it's like I say, it's a little intimidating for new people. So I like when I go to a Gourd circle, I love to hear what everybody has to say. I think I was lucky when I lived in San Francisco. I was part of this Cloud House Center, Poetry Center, and Cush, the fellow that ran it, had major poets, Michael McClure and Robert Kelly, very famous poets who came. And then we had people walk in off the street and just tell their heart song. And I'll tell you, all of them were interesting. Some were deeper and more complex, and some were very simple and real honest. So I find it a great way to express yourself, which is why we want everyone to write poetry. I mean, I know we are a very competitive society, and we like to think of people as being the top or the best, but for me, it's Lautréamont says everyone should make poetry. Poetry is something that, if we have language, we also have the skill of sharing that language and making it into stories. And basically, poetry is just formalized stories with people who have spent a long time looking at the tradition and know a lot of the different forms. And you can put them into forms or not, but you can always find a way to express, your deepest feelings somehow through language. And I think it's one of the great gifts we have as human beings is that we can speak to each other. So getting people to feel comfortable writing and then sharing it, that's one of the tasks that I've taken on in my life, and it's been very valuable to me.
Well, I'm so glad you've done that and that you've been able to share so much with the people around you. I'm hoping I'll get to attend something where you're participating again soon. It's been a little while since I've been involved in some of the conferences or different groups. But I would definitely encourage people who have the opportunity to attend one of your workshops, your playgrounds, or one of the events that you're involved in or hosting. I always really enjoy being able to hear you speak and perform and share that with people.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. And yeah, I'd love to come down there sometime.
That would be wonderful. I know we're trying to get. It's taken a little bit, I think, to get this area active and reorganized after COVID, but we're getting there.
COVID is hard. Yeah, that made it hard for people, and I don't blame them. I mean, I had COVID. That's no fun.
Yeah, and we have a fair amount of the writing community here is retirement age, and so it was kind of slow coming out of that because there were a lot of health risks that we had to be very careful of and wary.
That's right.
But tell me, before we wrap up, because we are getting about to that time already, I knew it would go fast. What are some of your upcoming either projects, writing related, or institute with the Talking Gourds? What can people kind of keep an eye out for, and remind everyone where they can find you?
Well, our next Bardic Trails, which is our online poetry reading, is going to be with Esther Bailyn on in December, the first Tuesday in December. And that's if you want to participate, anybody's welcome. You just register with the Wilkinson Public Library in Telluride. It's free, and they'll send you, when you register, they'll send you the link on the Zoom, and then you can participate. And Esther is going to read for 15, 20 minutes. We'll have some questions, and then after that, it's open to everybody that's attending that wants to share. Everybody gets to share a poem or a story or whatever they'd like online. So that's a real easy thing to do. And if you look up Wilkinson Public Library online, you can find the information about how to register for that. And I'm actually setting up a bunch of performances all around the region these days. So there's lots of stuff going on, and I'm really excited about our stories and poems here in Norwood, where we're doing a live series on the third Wednesday of every month. And it's a little ways to travel for people, but anybody who's interested is always welcome.
Wonderful. And like you said, following you on Facebook, you do a great job of updating and links and sharing what's going on there, so people can find you there and on your website. But yeah, thank you so much, Art. This has been wonderful talking to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to call in and have a chat.
Thank you so much, and it's great you have this program that's, again, helping people understand what poetry is about.
Absolutely. And if you run into other people who'd like to come on and share their thoughts and their work, I would love to have them.
All right, that sounds great.
Did you enjoy that podcast? We hope that you did. And if you did, share it with your friends. And if you really want to keep podcasts like this coming, please support KSJE. You can do it easily online at ksje.com.